YouTube? I am your host, Mediocre Tutorials and Reviews, back in here with yet one more video. Guys, listen, I was actually on my way to go to sleep, but I figured I'd turn on the camera and just talk to the people real quick. All right, just holler at y'all real quick. All right, so guys, listen, so I just was looking through my email, and you guys keep on sending me the Johnny Depp situation with his ex-wife. I think the video is like an hour long, so I just haven't had the opportunity yet this week. It's been a real busy week for me in order to review that video, and I haven't even looked at the reactions that other content creators have made off of that video. And the reason why I haven't looked at those videos as well is because I don't want to have a biased opinion based off of someone else and what someone else is saying. I just want to get the information from the source first and then provide you guys my reaction to it that is as unbiased as I know how. So I apologize for the delay, but I figured before I get the opportunity to actually look at the video, I can contribute to the conversation because I had a situation that has happened to me that was similar. So I want you to sit back, relax, and prepare for story time because I'm going to get in here in a second. But I want you also guys to stay tuned to the end of the video because there was things that I have done within my life in order to make sure that a situation like that will never happen again. And I think that it's key that as men, we hear these stories because they do happen. They do happen, but you can protect yourself. So without further ado, let's just get right in it. All right, so this was a few years ago, and I had met a young lady through, you guessed it, Tinder. Met her through Tinder, and we linked up at a coffee shop. And we linked up, had a okay like coffee venue, and had a pretty decent talk, a pretty decent time. I would say we probably linked up for about an hour and a half, 2 hours or so. Had coffee, exchanged numbers, and said peace. Now, I will say, I think I saw her that night because she had texted me that she's going to be around where I stay at. So I went and I ran up over there real quick because really everything is walking distance away from me. Anyway, so let's say a couple of days later, she had came through and then things got hot and heavy. Things got intimate, to say the least, right? So that took like 3 or 4 days. Regardless, fast forward to like a week or so later, and the first inkling that I had in my mind that she probably didn't have it all there is I had explained to her, she had asked me to come over, and I explained to her, listen, if I'm drinking today, it was a Sunday, if I'm drinking today, I am not driving at all. But I said, I don't know what's going to happen because I'm going to get up with all my friends and we'll see what's going to happen. She said, cool. Later on that day, I started drinking. So I said, listen, I can't come over. I can't come through. And she began to engage in a conversation with me that was disrespectful. Like I just felt like, wait a minute, I just met you. Why I'm on the phone with you and I'm like hearing your mouth. And she chose to hang up on me as if to like I'm supposed to like call her back. And she was like engaging in this test to see. I never called her back. I never called her back. And in fact, the whole next day, she's the one that's texting me back, apologizing, what have you. And I'm not responding. Now, I'm not responding. And in my mind, because of the way that she acted on that phone, the fact that I barely even knew her from a hole in the wall, I just decided not to respond back. Hours into that next day, so this was a Monday, I got a call from one of my friends. And he said, yo, where you at? So I respond to him at such and such. And he says, yo, because right now I'm with, and then he says the girl's name and she's asking, where are you? And I'm like, oh gosh. But meanwhile, he didn't know what the situation was. I don't even think he really even knew the girl like that. What happened was he was at some establishment and they met and then they were talking about mutual people that they know. And then my name came up, of course, right? So he was like, yo, she wants you to call her back. My bad. I didn't mean to interrupt anything, but she, we were just talking about you. And then, your name came up and she asked, where were you? So I'm over here just checking. So then I started texting the girl, like, in order to find out, what does she want? Here's mistake number one. She was texting me as if she wanted to come over and was essentially seducing me over text because she wanted to come through. And I allowed that seduction to happen. I did. I kind of, switch which heads that I was thinking with, and I allowed her to get back into my bubble. So what essentially transpired over a hour and a half of different texts kind of back and forth is she came over, right? Now here's something. I always noticed in the 2 or 3 times that she had come over to my crib, I always noticed that she was too comfortable in the space that I was in. It wasn't the kind that I'm in right now. It was a spot before this. She was too comfortable. You ever notice when someone just walks in and they just start opening up your fridge, or they just start walking in the rooms? Be mindful of people like that, because they're usually up to something. They're usually plotting something. They're usually thinking about things that they can insert or things that they can take away as they're looking and being shifty with your space. Be very mindful of those people. Anyway, so she comes over. Whatever happened, happened. She's on her way out. And on the way out, she picks up something off of the floor and is like wiping down her hands with it. And I look up and I had just done laundry. She had picked up a clean sock. I had yet to put it into the drawer yet, and just started like cleaning up her hands with it. And I was just like, yo, why don't you go into the bathroom and wash your hands? That one statement turned into an argument. But again, in my mind, I'm thinking like, how are you just picking things up and just deciding what to do with things? Like, if you're new to someone's space, usually you like ask like, hey, where's the bathroom at? Or, hey, where's towels at? But, just the comfortability always kind of threw me off. Right. So that turned into an issue. That turned into an opportunity to her to try to rile me up. Anyway, so I'm in the process of kicking her out because I don't tolerate situations like that. It's not my MO. I hate drama. I shouldn't have let her into the door in the first place. After I recognized the bit of craziness about her, I allowed her to come back in. I re-recognized it, right? The other head then activated, and I'm in the process of telling her to leave, right? She's leaving. She walks to the back of the door. So I had 2 exits. I had the front door, and there was a back door that went straight out the back. On the way of me telling her that she has to leave, she started to do this angry drama, kind of yelling stuff. I wasn't entertaining it. Here's what she did though. She picked up a door stopper. They're like 3-4 feet in length. You put them on the back of the doors. They're like metal. You put them on the back of the doors in order, if someone on the other side of the door is trying to break in, this door jammer would stop. She picked it up out of the door jam and put it in her hand and started going like this, acting like this, that, and the third. Here's what I did, because I know rule number 1, you never put your hand on a woman, ever. Even if it's to grab something away, it can be misconstrued, tangle can ensue. You never even do it. Here's what I did to silence that action. I turned the lights off and I closed my bedroom door. And I waited in my door to hear her close the door. About 15 to 20 seconds of me in my room thinking of the mistakes that I have made during that night, it occurred to me, I shouldn't leave this comfortable person in my crib alone with the lights off. As soon as I opened the door, the back door, she slammed closed and exited. So I ran up to the door, I locked the door, and I went back to my bedroom and slept wonderfully. It was a fantastic slumber. Anyway, I woke up in the morning, got ready for work, feeling good, feeling great. Took a shower, got out the shower, thinking about my day, looking at my work email on my phone. I can't find my wallet. and I cannot find my keys. Now, meanwhile, in the back of my head, I remembered the situation that happened the night before, right? But it didn't occur to me at the time that she might have been capable of doing that or removing things out of my crib. So for the next hour and a half to 2 hours, I thought nothing of it. But in that time, I was tearing up my apartment. But it just didn't make sense because I don't lose things, right? Hour and a half to 2 hours later, I finally text her like, listen, I can't find my wallet and my keys. Do you have any idea what might have happened to it? No, I don't know what you're talking about. Well, check here. Did you check there? Check there. So I'm checking all these spots that she's asking me to check. I'm like, oh yeah, good idea. Let me go check there. 2.5 hours to 3 hours later, I am super late for work. I had already texted my manager and was like, listen, I think at the time I said I can't find my wallet. I didn't say my wallet and my keys because then he'd probably be like, what? Like it just doesn't make sense, right? So I'm standing out on the back door, got the door open. My neighbor walks out. He walks down the fire escape and he sees me standing up there. He's like, yo, MTR. He didn't say MTR, but you get it. It's not like I know my name or anything like that. He says, why are you looking like that? And I told him the situation. I can't find my wallet or my keys. He says, oh, that's weird. So he walks out the back. He's about to go to his car. And then he comes back. He's like, yo, there's a wallet down here, right? So he shows me. He's like, yo, listen, there's a wallet. Meanwhile, it's raining the whole night before. Shows me the wallet. I go down. I grab the wallet. I thank him. I go back up. And I retext the assailant. And I say, I found my wallet. Meanwhile, I hadn't been back there the whole day before. So I knew that she had thrown my wallet behind the building. But I texted her back and I said, if you do not let me know where my keys are, I will call the cops. Because I don't play that. I'm not a kid. I'm not a tit for tat. You do this to me, I do this to you. You know, this weird like Romeo and Juliet, Bonnie and Clyde, whatever. I don't do any of that, okay? I'm an adult. I'm going to call the cops. That's what I told her. She texts me back, leave me alone, okay? Her tone changed immediately. I text her back, let me know where the keys are, and this all goes away. 10 minutes later, she calls me back. She says, listen, I was angry, so I took your wallet and your keys. I threw the wallet behind the building. I threw the keys on the way going home right before the Parkway entrance. I said, if you don't get my keys, I will call the cops. Now, here's the silver lining, is the Parkway entrance is 5 minutes walking from where I was living at the time. So it wasn't too far. So she told me roundabout where she threw them out. So I went out there to go find them as well. I know you guys probably saying to yourself, what does that have to do about the Johnny Depp situation? I'm getting there. Okay? Hold on. So anyway, so I go up and I'm trying to look for the keys. Meanwhile, she pops up out of nowhere. She actually worked right around there as well. She popped up out of nowhere. And you know what's funny is like I remember like I was walking to go get the keys and I remember seeing her like from the back and I'm looking like, oh shit, who's that? And then she turns around and it's her. Like I was so pissed. I was so angry. Yeah, but anyway, so there goes the keys right where she said that she threw them. And I'm standing here. She's standing right here. I'm looking at her. She looks at me. I look down at the ground. The keys are right there. I pick up the keys. Meanwhile, in my mind, I'm thinking, you didn't throw the keys. You probably had them in your pocket and you just dropped them there. Anyway, I pick up the keys. I start walking away. I say, I'm going to call the cops anyway, right? And this is in order to protect myself because at this person, I feel like I'm dealing with a crazy person. So as a man, you need to protect yourself, right? So get a system of record going in order to do that. Calling the cops is a good way in order to do that. So I go back to the crib and I follow through on my promise. I was livid at this point, by the way. I was livid. And I called the police. Here's where I messed up. Well, you can argue if it's a mess up or not. This was a mess up now that I think about it. Because I let my anger in the situation overwhelm my logic. Cop came, I'm following a police report, and he's just telling me like, yeah, like, you know, the keys, you got everything back. So if she still had the wallet with the credit cards in it, it's like a felony. I believe it's a felony for each credit card because it's over $1,000 limit on a credit card. But you got everything back. And I was like, cool. Well, you know, it's just for record keeping, just in case something else happens down pat. It shows that I interacted with you and that I instigated contact with you. So it would prevail positively on me, right? Trying to protect myself. Here's why I messed up. While the cop was in there, I took a photo of him in my crib and I sent it to her. That's where I messed up. Okay, so the officer leaves. I think the situation is done. 30 minutes later, I get a call on my phone from a number I do not recognize. And it's voice I do not recognize, but it sounds eerily and unmistakably like your generic hood booger. And hello? You know, all of that. And I'm like, hello? Is this da-da-da-da-da? You know, my name. And I'm like, yeah, who is this? And he's like, well, I just want to let you know that. And then she says the girl's name. I'm taking such and such to the hospital because you hit her. You beat her. She has grab marks all over her neck. And I know what you did. And we're going to the hospital right now. And we're going to call the cops on you. And then she says, how would, and then she named my place of employment. How would such and such know that you beat women, right? So at this point, I'm like, oh, this is a problem. This is an issue because as what we know, guiltiness for violence towards women in any sense that comes from a man is you are guilty at the point of accusation. Not when you're proven guilty, but at the point of accusation, you were guilty. So I took that extremely serious. So at this point, I called one of my best friends and asked for advice. He's a real level-headed dude, and he gave me some advice. So I took that advice and I recalled the same officer that came into my crib, and I spoke to him, and he recognized me because we had a real good conversation. And he recognized me and he said, oh yeah, I just actually got a call from the girl that you're talking about. So the girl did call, and the officer said, and not only did they call, but I just met with them. So I just met with them. I took a look at her, and she had no markings on her, no bruisings. The story didn't add up. It didn't make sense. Just even the order that you called, you called first and then she called second. The officer said, what I told her to do is I told her to go to the hospital, do all the checks, get checked out. And then at that time, if they wanted to call back with a proper report, then they could. Now, mind you, I'm consolidating a lot of this story. I'm consolidating a lot in order for time. This actually ended up being a little bit longer than what I thought it was going to be. So in other words, he didn't believe her. He didn't believe her based off of her conversation and what she was saying, my conversation and what I was saying. And I felt a huge sigh of relief. Now, from the time that she called me, the hood booger friend, and the time that the police officer communicated to me that he's not even gonna come back over because it didn't make sense. That it was about another hour and a half. So it was a solid hour that like I'm stressed. I'm trying to figure out what to do. I'm thinking of like what that accusation can mean. And it was so stressful in that situation. So so I think it's key to understand that there's things that I did within the timeline of that story that if I was to do it again, what would those things be? I think number one, at the point that you recognize crazy, let it go. Let it go. Nothing is worth the risk to your sanity, to your mental health, to what you've built. Because what I learned is that there's people with a lot less to live for that are more than willing to topple the kingdom that you built. Another thing, download a call recorder app on your phone. To this day, I wish that I recorded her call, because best believe I be playing it right now for you guys to hear. So just so you can hear how crazy this situation was. But also to protect yourself, because you need a system of record. You need a system of record when you're dealing with outside parties that you're not familiar with. Even those that you might be familiar with, there has to be a system of record. That's why they tell you if you have a stalker or anything like that, and I did have one, that'll be an entirely whole story. Save all the emails, save all the text, save all the emails, save the voice recordings if you have them, save the video if you've got anyone on tape, save all of those. Within that night, I wish that I was proactive as well, as at the time that an argument started to brew. And since then, I have done this with certain situations. When something starts to brew that doesn't sit well with me, I double tap my phone on the side right here, and it turns on my camera. So I double tap that, and then I click the record button. And on these new smartphones, I mean, the audio, it picks up the audio so well. Someone could be across the room and it can pick up the audio. Again, you want to give yourself a system of record in order to protect yourself. And third, now imagine that exact same situation if I was a dude who actually put my hands on women. I'd have no defense. And it's the most sucker type of trait that some men have. So irrespective of all of this, and I know that I didn't in my heart of hearts, and I knew that if it came down to it, if they were a little bit smarter, a little bit more conniving, not as hood booger, they could have brought things and bubbled it up in a way that I would have to defend myself. Even if it was something as I grabbed the pole from her and then it accidentally hit her and she had a bruise on her shoulder or something like that. Imagine if that happened and then she would have had a small leg to stand on, however tiny that leg would have been. Always avoid situations where it can turn into a physical altercation, because the fights that you can absolutely win are the ones that you are never involved in. All right, so listen, that has been your video for today. That has been my story. I did a live stream not too long ago and I touched on this situation. And it's one of those things that, you know, it's experiential, right? And I feel like I have an obligation to share these stories to inform those that have not yet to experience these things in a way that if you do come across it and you start to see some of these signs, you're not oblivious to the situation. You have a little bit of the game from those who might have experienced it before you. And in fact, write comments down in the description box down below, because I know I'm not one of the only people that had suffered through something similar to this. I have boys that were accused of rape, and knowing for damn sure that they didn't do anything of the sort, right? So this can happen. Protect yourselves. More stories to come. If you guys enjoy these type of stories where I'm sharing just little tidbits about my life, stuff that I've gone through, leave a like, leave a comment. Let me know how y'all feel about this. But above all, I appreciate each and every one of y'all. Until next time, YouTube.